First, our apologizes because well, the trains failed to work, so we are a little bit late. Welcome at SIB-Utrecht. For those who don't know SIB-Utrecht, SIB-Utrecht is the Dutch United Nations Students Association. We combine activities such as social drinks and travels with more serious activities like lectures and symposia. Today we're here as part of a series about our neighboring countries who are important to the Netherlands. We earlier had Germany and Belgium, and we saw how Belgium still has some problems with internal struggles in their country, and Germany about well, finding out their role in Europe. Tonight we are going to discuss France, and for this evening we are honored to have Martin Juillard ici. He's the second man at the French embassy and the first chancellor over there. And well, he will tell us more about France, about well, the economic crisis we have, and about the new president, President Hollande, and how his reign will influence the policy. Then about the rest of the evening, first we'll listen to Martin Juillard for 45 minutes. Then we continue with a little break of about 10 minutes, and then there will be well, some time to discuss and to pose your questions. For the pause, I want to ask you not to bring your drinks back to this room. And now it's time for Martin Juillard. Give him a warm applause.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, let me apologize because I'm still not completely acquainted to the way the Dutch trains work. Second, well, I'm sorry because I understand that this was a serious evening with a social drink, not a lecture. I'm asked to describe what could be the influence of the recent French elections, both presidential and parliamentary elections, because they held 1 month at 1 month distance, on the relations between our two countries, and on the European policy of France. Before I begin, just a little word. It happens that President Hollande had a press conference today, this afternoon, late this afternoon. Too late for me to have the wording of that press conference. So I might not be as specific as I would like to, since there was certainly some announcement tonight that I still don't know of about European issues, but mainly, well, we already know a few things here. I'll focus mainly here tonight on the European issue, because when you talk about bilateral relationships between two European countries, and even more neighboring countries, and who are both founding members of the European Union, these bilateral relations and these ties cannot be understood out of the framework of the European Union and the European integration process. Of course, this provides the whole global picture in which we will move, and in which we will have some divergences, some convergences on some issues. Our bilateral relationships cannot be understood and has absolutely no meaning except for some cliches outside of that framework. So, having said that, first just a few words on the election itself and the context in which it took place. It was and it was not a French election. It was a French election because it was held in France, of course, but it was not, or not only, because no election today in Europe can be understood solely in its national context. That was the case here in the Netherlands a few months ago, and that was the case in spring in France. That's not only the influence of European issues, which are really the core today of economic campaigns, be it regarding economic issues or whatsoever, but rather the fact that our mutual influences and the fact that we live in converging societies mean that we follow interrelated trajectories and political trajectories. So what you witness here can have an echo there. And this we have faced a lot of times in the last 20 years all over Europe. The fact that you have some global switch from the left wing to the right wing in many countries at the same time, or the fact that these days it's quite difficult for a government to obtain re-election these days because of the crisis. So in this regard, just a few words to describe that political context. First, there is a strong demand from the European constituencies for political and, when possible, ideological clarity. We face a strong request for clear political choices. Most of the time that left wing or right wing, center left, center right, and we have clear polarization, political polarizations of the constituencies. Our analysis is that is what happened here in the Netherlands, and I think that's the analysis of many European embassies in The Hague. That's also what happened, of course, in France in spring, when there was a strong fight along left-right axis. Second, there is strong demand, of course, for consistency and coherence. No promises, no useless, no pointless promises, but really that's more or less Churchill's blood, sweat and tears. We can accept that, we can understand, but we need to know. Third, so-called rise of anti-European populism. That's something to be taken quite cautiously. Of course, we face such extreme right or extreme left parties in many European countries, but nowhere are they in a position to take power. Furthermore, I'd say that probably nowhere are they really willing to take power, because they don't know what we do. They are protesting parties. And people, the voters of these parties, know that they are protesting parties, and that's why they vote for such parties. Would they be in a position to obtain power? That would mean either really strong change in voters' mind, or a strong change in the position of such parties. Again, to refer to the Netherlands case, that's probably part of what we faced with the Socialist Partij, where on one hand they took a much more cautious stance regarding European issues, to be regarded as more credible as a government party, but on the other hand, when it appeared that they might be in a position to rule a coalition, there was a brutal move from the constituency from the left to the center left, more traditional party. And we'll see the same thing in France, where there was a left-wing party or alliance, Front de Gauche, who was really in a strong position by mid-March until April, 3 weeks before the elections. They were hoping to get 15 to 18% of the vote, which would have made them very powerful in light of the coming parliamentary elections. They ended up with 11% on the presidential election and less than 10% on the parliamentary. So this anti-European populism, well, it does exist, but we have to be careful not to make it too bigger than it actually is. there is no consensus anywhere in Europe about European integration, and there probably never was anywhere, except maybe in Germany at some point in time, during the 70s and the 80s. But even there, I'm not sure. But nowhere you will find a real consensus among all political parties about European issues. But still, there is a strong majority among the founding members. For several reasons, we'll come back to that, but there is a strong majority. So, the main problem for European political parties, I mean, at least in Western Europe, is that they have to gather two different majorities. One regarding political choice they're asked to make. The second regarding their European policy. And you see that the two cannot coincide. Or that's very difficult. It means that either you have to compromise with some right-wing or left-wing parties that are quite Eurosceptics, or that you have to compromise with the other European party facing you, which is what happened in the Netherlands, which makes political choice less clear, but probably European policies more efficient. French situation tends to get closer to the second case. There wasn't any alliance with the left or right-wing parties, be it from President Sarkozy or from President Hollande, but inside their own parties, they have strong anti-European tendencies. So they have to take that into account. But the French system allows us to get clear majorities, which means that the president, if he has a parliamentary majority, at least in the second chamber, Chambre des députés, Assemblée nationale, he can govern quite easily. So, President Hollande was elected with less than 50% of the votes due to the white ballots and so on, but he was elected quite clearly, and he obtained a clear parliamentarian majority, which means that for the next 5 years he has free hands, more or less. What does this mean for Europe? Europe has been, again, a central theme in the electoral campaign in France. And the motto for the president was growth, growth, growth. He said that he would accept to ratify the Treaty on Stability, Cooperation and Governance only if there was growth side added to it. And he said that repeatedly that he wanted to modify let's say, the main axis of the European action against the euro crisis in order to introduce more pro-growth policies into it. So this has been the first steps taken after the election, even before the parliamentary election. But during the first council that took place, I think 4 or 5 days after the election, and also during the main council that took place in June. We obtained the addition of a growth pact to the Treaty on Stability and Governance, which added several measures that would help in rebuilding competitiveness for European companies, which also tried to ease the financing of the economy by the banks. But that goes farther than the sole euro crisis, because our view is that beyond the euro crisis there is a much deeper economic crisis, and the euro crisis is just some kind of let's say symptom. So what we have to solve is not only the doubts that the markets can show about the sustainability of the euro, but rather the root causes, which may relate with the economic crisis. And the source of this economic crisis is a financial crisis. We knew that since 2008. Lack of interbanking trust, lack of financing between the banks, difficulty in financing the economy. The level of our debt, national debt, you remember I'm sorry, this is a lot about economics, but again, it will be about economics mainly here tonight. Remember the criteria for entering the eurozone. It was less than 3% public deficit and less than 60% of GDP debt. We all are much higher than 60%, but that's very recent. We went higher in 2008 when we had to really open our pockets. The state had to finance the economy to try to avoid bankruptcy of the bank and a complete breakdown of the financial system. That's where we rose from, well, in France from 63 to 85%. Germany more or less the same. And this, again, we have to rebuild economic and collective strategies, not only to rebuild the trust of the markets among our states. Of course, we have to do so, we fully recognize this, but also to rebuild the possibility for our economies to run normally, with the normal financial flows, which is still not the case. So, there was this long-lasting negotiation for the last 5 years, European Stability Mechanism, the two-pack, European Financial Stability Fund, Treaty on Stability, Cooperation and Governance. Probably most of you know all that. That was trying to build a response to growing expectations from the markets towards the euro. Really, are you going to do it? Are you going to admit that Greece cheated so much and won't you do anything about it? Yes, we will. Well, we will do a lot about it. And Greece is paying for its sins today, but we won't let them down. And yes, that was built in response to the markets. We won't let the euro fall. And the euro has to stand as it is, because if we let one out, everybody is out. Once that door is open, everybody will leave through that door. So everybody stays in, including Greece. That's a must. I don't say that we liked that, because we were as displeased as the Netherlands were, or the Germans were. And our taxpayers were very much displeased about the amount of money that we had to lend to Greece in order to save the country. But there's no other way. And this is a consensus in France. By the end of the week, there's going to be 2 councils, ECOFIN from the Ministry of Finance and from Ministries of Foreign Affairs, okay, I think, in Brussels, to hopefully solve, at least for the next 2 years, the Greek case. We're going to open that famous second part of the Greek financing facility, because we consider that having adopted their budget, it might prove, or has proven, their willingness really to enter the real criteria that we want them to abide to regarding the way they manage their economy. So, this is to say that if you talk about how we want to manage the euro crisis, there is a single commitment that did not change from one president to the other, from one majority to the other. We're still fully committed to save the euro, to save all the countries that are involved in, and to make sure that we can rebuild confidence in the markets, on the people, towards the euro. But that's not all, of course. Again, it's also an economic crisis, and rebuild that trust means that we have to rebuild a full, overcome that economic crisis that we're facing for the last 4 years, and probably for much more than that. Deep change in the way our economy runs. That's why there's still a strong commitment from the government, the current government, to reduce the debt, to reduce the deficit, the public spending, but also to try to achieve a balance between debt reduction and fiscal austerity and pro-growth policies. President Hollande said a few days ago in an interview that he was aware that when elected, something was expected from him, not only at the national level, but also at the European level, which was probably to change the mood, to help create a new state of mind, collective state of mind, in which we could achieve a better balance and take into account that necessity for growth. And we know that in many countries, including the Netherlands, this has been warmly welcomed. We all know that we can't recover if we don't have higher growth rates. This is on the short term, and this has been most of the decisions that have been made by the government this far regarding debt reduction, regarding the next budget, 30 million, 10 million public spending reduction, 20 million additional taxes, and a bit more competitiveness pact, which was announced a few days ago, to try to improve the situation of our companies and of our industry. On the midterm, beyond the euro crisis, because the euro crisis will end. We're not at the end of the tunnel, but we see the light. Maybe end of 2013, we can say that we're really out and that everything has gone back to normal. And beyond that, what we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years showed us that we had a real problem in governance of the eurozone. So how can we improve that? Which means we knew when we negotiated and signed the Maastricht Treaty 20 years ago that it was a huge step forward, and really an amazing one, creating a single currency and abandoning centuries-old national currencies was something psychologically, politically, economically very impressive, very risky. We did it, we managed that. That was wonderful, but that was in times of higher growth, of easier economic times. So today we recognize the fact that we just made half of we just run along half the way. So we are in the middle of the river. How can we reach the other side? And the other side, it's not only for the eurozone, because what we've seen already with that crisis is that the European Union is already divided into 2 groups: those who are inside the euro and those who are not. And you will have that 2-speed Europe that we feared for such a long time, but that in the end we recognize to be the only way for those countries willing to go forward to do so. So, there's been a request by the Council on the initiative of President Hollande, and Bundeskanzlerin Angela Merkel on the 29th and 30th of June for what we call the group of presidents, the 4 presidents of the European Union. The European Union has 4 presidents. President of the Council, Van Rompuy, President of the Commission, Barroso, President of the Eurozone, Juncker, and President of the European Parliament, Schulz. So, there was a request from the Council to this group of 4 presidents to think about the future of the European Union and how could we improve the way it works. And how can we make the European integration a sustainable process in the long run. And that's what there was a first step in October, during the council that took place in October with the Van Rompuy Pact. 4 different things. Banking union. I mean, all the banks in the European Union will have to abide to the same rules and will be supervised by one single European body, held by the European Central Bank. Doesn't seem much, that's very important because it will ease. First, it will make sure that all European banks really work the same way and have the same rules, and that there's no difference in competition between them. And second, that will ease to really the way the financial sector works, and really having rolling again, and banks restore trust between banks. Second is budgetary union, so control from the European Union on the budgets of the member states. Make sure that you're not spending the money you don't have, and that your fellow partners from the European Union would have to reimburse at some time at your place. Third, the economic union, which means convergence between the economies and the competitiveness of the different economies. That's probably the main source of our problems. All economies inside the European Union are not, or inside the Eurozone, are not at the same level. That's of course self-evident when you compare Greece and Germany, but that's also obvious regarding much closer economies. Not because of the level of the growth, the gross domestic product per inhabitant, but rather because the structure of the economy differs. And that's an impediment. And we have to solve this. And fourth, the political union, which means building democratic control, which at this stage remains mainly at the national level. How can we make sure that there's also a stronger democratic control at the European level, which means that of course, the idea is to build the legitimacy for the European Union, but it is legitimate, much more than we usually think, and much more than our media people and our some politicians say. It is legitimate, and it is democratic. But rather, the issue is to make sure that this democratic control is also held at the European level, where there is a European view of the European issues, and not at the national level, not only at the national level. I mean, if you talk about the Euro crisis, okay, our governing people enter the same room in Brussels every 2 months or 3 months, and they discuss and they found solutions. They go back home, and then back home it's our national parliaments discussing national interests with national views that we'll have to debate on this. This will remain, of course, but we also need to have a stronger democratic control at the European level, where we can build a European public opinion and European views. So that's the basic idea of the political union. This Van Rompuy Pact is something very important. We don't know where it will end. we already got an agreement on the first two points, banking union and budgetary union. But we have to hope that we can reach an agreement on the whole package, because it articulates and really the answer on the short term: banking union, budgetary union, to try to solve the euro crisis and the financial crisis, and the mid-term economic union, and global political legitimacy, which is also indispensable to build that those sustainable solutions. Also trying to bridge, Van Rompuy is trying to bridge between communitary logic, I mean the process, the decision-making process inside the European Union, where the communitary logic, where the power lies with the Commission and the Parliament, and on the other hand, intergovernmental logic, where the power lies with the states. Of course, we need both. In the past, we often had to oppose them, considering that it was not the same, that if you were with the state, you could not be with the Commission, and so on, which is today not true anymore. There was a brilliant book written by a Dutch professor of the Groningen University 2 or 3 years ago, Luc van Middelaar, which is called The Passage naar Europa, which is absolutely brilliant on that. The fact that the states are part, themselves are part of the European Union, and they build, while negotiating together, they build also that European feeling, that European sense of being together, that really is part of the process. And so we need definitely to bridge these two logics, and then also try to make sure that we can still articulate discussion between Euro members and non-Euro countries. Of course, that means that we have to solve very difficult questions. What is the position of the United Kingdom today inside the European Union? Nobody knows it. The Brits themselves don't, of course. One thing is for sure, is that we all know that we need them inside the European Union. We can't imagine the UK leaving the European Union. That's impossible. We can't afford that. That would be too high a price to pay for all of us, economically, politically, on all sides. And nobody wants that. France, less than anybody. Problem is that some people inside the UK would not share completely that opinion. And there's a strong pressure from inside the Conservative Party on the Prime Minister David Cameron to hold a referendum on the issue of leaving European Union or not. Prime Minister Cameron accepted the principle of such a referendum. Might notice that he never said when this should be held. In 20 years or 2 or 3 centuries. We don't know that. And I hope we never know. And I think that's what everybody hopes. But still, we have some serious problems with the position of UK, since if we strengthen the ties between members of the Eurozone and if we make the banking union, it means that it will have an impact on the situation of the financial sector of the city. And even though they're not part of the budgetary union or whatsoever, they will be affected, since they're doing business inside the Euro, a lot of business inside the Eurozone, and they will have to abide to such rules. So UK will be part of the decision-making process, even if not member of the Eurozone. Of course, this we can't accept. You're in or you're out, but if you're out, you cannot make decisions as if you were in. That's self-obvious again. But this shows how difficult decisions regarding the position of the UK and a few other members of the EU that are not part of the Eurozone are. But again, here there's a strong consensus in France on such issues. There will certainly be some differences or divergences on the political union, for instance, or on how we envision the economic union. But what you can see from the political debate these days in France is that the center-right party from President Sarkozy, UMP, is criticizing a lot President Hollande on many issues, not that much on its European policies, because for 80% that's in line with what was done before, previously, with the previous government. There's a strong consensus among the governing parties in France about that. So you will have some differences, again, about growth, about the way we envision the midterm future, but basically we have the policy of our interests and the policy of what we consider to be the European interests here. Probably the main difference is not a substance one, it's rather a tactical one. And if you read your papers, the international pages of the papers, you probably saw that. That's about the role of the Franco-German relationship in Europe. In the period between 2008 and 2010 or 11, we all agreed in Europe on the fact that Commission was too slow to bring efficient and proper response fast enough to the financial crisis. The Commission itself recognized it. So there was a growing role of intergovernmental body, that is the Council, negotiation between states. In Europe, when you talk about negotiation between states, you talk about first France and Germany. Like it or not. That's not because we are the main powers, that's just because, due to the structure of the European Union, and the fact that on the at the first sight, we often do not agree. If there is no agreement on France and between France and Germany on some issue, there won't be any agreement at all. That's a must. If we can build an agreement, you can be pretty sure that this agreement is quite close to what could be a global consensus. It won't be the case all the time, but most of the time that is. It's quite close. So France and Germany have to work together, and they did it between 2008 and 2011 a lot. And we know probably too much. We know that created some frustrations among our friends, among our partners, among our allies. We've had that remark from our Dutch partners several times. We can understand that. Because once you've taken that habit, it's hard to step back. But we know that relying too much on the sole Franco-German couple would be probably dangerous. So the idea of President Hollande, when he came to power, when he came into office, was, well, not to distance himself from Germany. Of course, that's impossible, and we cannot do that for the reason I just explained, but rather try to associate more other prominent countries of the Eurozone to the decision-making, to the first stages of the decision-making process. This is why he made his first visit, as ever, to Berlin, and that will always be the case. The second and the third one, the very same day, or the day after, were for Rome and Madrid. And it was important to show that we were ready to take into account other partners' views, also to show that there was no rift between Northern Europe and Southern Europe. This probably, if you talk about European policy, was the main difference between President Sarkozy and President Hollande. It was a tactical move that really, which had been thought over, which probably was indispensable. It was necessary to do so, and I don't know how it could have happened, but had President Sarkozy been re-elected, there might have been some comparable change or evolution, because that was definitely needed. So, we've heard a lot these days about, well, there's a crisis between France and Germany, and a few days ago there was this report from 5 so-called wise men, economic council in Germany, well, describing the French economy in disastrous terms. Well, we know that there's some anxiety in Germany about the state of the French economy. Well, that we can understand that, but we're trying to improve things on one hand, and second, Germany knows that it can't work in Europe without us. The thing, again, is that it does not have to be, it must not be a condominium. We need to work all together. And in this regard, there's been, we were also quite frustrated in our relation with the Netherlands, which is a very important partner in this regard to us. Due to the electoral context, we could not build the same type of, I wouldn't say relationship, but working ties for quite a while. And well, I can tell you that the day after the government was invested here in the Netherlands, Mr. Timmermans wanted to go to Paris. Unfortunately, it was not possible for Mr. Fabius to receive him on that day. That was the case 3 days after. And for us, it's a symbol, and it's very important. I mean, to have this relaunch of the bilateral relation between us, because we need to work together again, because that consensus can be built and can be achieved only among the 17 members of the Eurozone, and farther away, the 27, of course. One last word. We have to think also about this in the longer term. And this does not concern only France or the French elections, but you have to think it also considering where does European Union come from, what is the purpose of European integration, and what it is meant for. If you look at Europe, from outside Europe, consider us the way others are considering us, you will see that the Chinese, the Americans, the Latin Americans, they consider us much more united, much closer than we feel we are. They might be true, in a way. They might be true. European integration logic is inherited from our history. It's trying to achieve long-lasting balance on the continent, which we tried to achieve for centuries, without the means of violence. And that was difficult. And did we achieve that? Of course, not completely, and we still have a lot of road, a long road ahead of us. But we have also to consider the fact that European integration is the only way for us to answer properly to the changes our world faces, mainly technological changes, appearance of an economical model based on information rather than value of objects, political changes, which means the end of the monopoly of the state in foreign relations, but also the monopoly of the state on sovereignty, which is challenged from down under and from above. And also geo-strategic changes with the rise of Asia and the return to, let's say, I wouldn't say more normal, because nothing is normal here, but more logical balance of strength regarding demographic weight of countries. And nobody can answer properly to that in Europe, not even Germany, of course. No EU country is able to maintain sustainable comparative advantages in the economic competition. We cannot do that only by having a common weight that will allow us to be market, you know the expression market makers and not market takers. None of us can be a market maker by itself. Together we can be market makers. We can influence the way the markets work. Politically, and EU here is a very strange legal object that creates law in a way that was never experienced before. Completely intertwined with international law, but whose elaboration process answers probably more completely to the democratic requirements of our societies than any other lawmaking process, because it's completely multi-dimensional negotiating process. You have to negotiate on all sides, between states, between with lobbies, but also with the Commission, which represent different layer of interest and so on. And this is much more complicated than anywhere else. That's why it's very long, but that's why also it's very sustainable. And on the technical side, because EU is the only way for it is the most proper way for us to build knowledge-based economies. Not only because of the policies held at European level, of course they're important, but also because the creation of a unified space, not only a unified market, but also a unified space in which ideas, people, and not only objects circulate freely, create a lot of exchanges and a lot of, let's say, intellectual warmth, if I may say so. That is the condition for, let's say, building such a high-tech economy. Besides, this also was the condition for the building of the so-called EU soft power. If you look at international negotiations that have been taking place for the last 20 years, the most innovative one have always, all of them, have always taken place, sorry, at the EU initiative at the European level, be it on environment, be it on human rights, be it on minorities, or whatsoever. Europe's soft power is a reality internationally, and we are much more influential in the view of our partners outside Europe than we think we are here in Europe. And this is something very important. This, in my view, of course, as a diplomat, it's one of the main achievements as the European Union, because more than anything else, it shows that not only are we on the same boat, but we are building something really common. There was this famous sentence from, well, it's famous in France, of course, because it's a French writer, André Malraux. L'Europe est une communauté de destin. Europe is a community of destiny. And here, that's what we're trying to build. Not only a fate that would come to us, but something that we have to build in common. And this is why also elections and political daily life is absolutely fundamental to understand this, because it's the condition of the democratic legitimacy of the European Union. But you also always have to keep in mind what happens in the long run, in the long term. And this is something that will stay here for good. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Mr. Juillard, for your Now there will be a break of about 10 minutes, and you can pose your questions after the break. I would like to ask you not to bring your drinks back to this room. Thank you. Well, now it's time to pose your questions. If you get a microphone, Sjoerd will be over there with the microphone. If you get the microphone, please stand up and say your name.
Good evening, my name is Wouter Eijens. Thank you for your lecture. You said about that more European integration is basically unavoidable and should be the goal, and it's basically the consensus in the major left-wing and right-wing parties in France, as is in the Netherlands. However, in both countries, in I believe 2004 with the referendum for the European Constitution, that was the moment that the general public could speak out on more or less European integration. And both in France and in the Netherlands, they said no. And my question is, the Constitution more or less came in the form of the Treaty of Lisbon. And should European integration might be desirable to solve the crisis, but how can we do more European integration when the last time we asked the public when they wanted that, they said no.
Did they?
Well, they said no.
And yeah, did they? No, I mean seriously, did they? The problem with the referendum, and we know that since Napoleon the First invented reinvented, created the referendum plebiscite in France during the First Empire, is that with a referendum you never know which question the people is going to answer. And that was the case, obviously, in France, certainly, and as far as I can see how things happened in the Netherlands in 2005, probably also in the Netherlands. In France, what happened is that people said no for two main reasons. Let's put aside the fraction of the population that would oppose any additional European integration or the European Union itself, in principle. That's more or less basically 20–25% of the population. So that leaves us with 30%, because no, 56 in France, 60, a bit more than 16 in the Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken. First, those who were considering that the European Constitution was one-sided, was breaking the balance of, let's say, ideological strength, ideological power inside the European Union. If you look at the Rome Treaty as well as Maastricht Treaty, they're trying to achieve both a very careful balance between liberalization, opening the spaces and so on, and also trying to protect what we call the European social model, to make it short, to cut a long story short. And what we call in France the left-wing no was to say this balance has been broken, it's not been achieved inside the Constitution. You may well discuss that. Some people considered that, well, everything that regarded the liberalization in the Constitution was already, as a matter of fact, in the previous treaties, and indeed it was. So that leaves us with the second reason, which is, of course, the most important one here. Most of the people who said no, who had said yes to Maastricht Treaty, said no, not to the Constitution, but to the fact that the Constitution was going to apply to a 27 Europe members European Union. People said no to the enlargement, the previous enlargement. That was the main difficulty. Now, to the combination, more precisely to the combination of the constitution and the enlargement. They would have accepted the constitution for a 15 European Union members European Union, not for a 27. That's basically the problem. That was basically the problem, and we saw that a lot of times since then. In France, the strongest image of the campaign in 2005 was no to the plumber, the Polish plumber, because he's going to take the jobs of the French plumbers. Of course, it was absurd, but still, it was a very strong image on the risk and on the fear people had of the different levels of the economic development between Eastern and Western Europe. Like it or not, that was a fact. And that's a fact that you can still find in the fact that almost all of the 17 members of the Eurozone are part of the EU15. Only 3 of them were not, for 4. But still, there was some kind of reality here. And I guess in the Netherlands it was more or less the same. It was not a no to the constitution in itself, it was a no to the fact that the constitution came too late, or that the enlargement had not been conducted the way it should have been. This would be my answer.
Next question over there.
Good evening, my name is Mark Huisjes. I tend to agree with you on that answer, but has it actually been verified with polls and referenda of any sort?
What do you mean? The fact that the influence of the
Yes, that the actual no vote originated in that anti-enlargement sentiment, that people not actually voted against the constitution but against the enlargement.
Yeah, you can. Well, that's a bit complex to answer, but the easiest way to answer would be to take a look at the opinion studies of the voters of the Eurosceptic parties, and you will find out that both in the Netherlands, in France, in UK as well, in Italy with la Lega del Norte, and in other countries, in Denmark, in Finland with the real Finnish, in Austria, these voters, let's say almost half of the voters of such right-wing Eurosceptic parties or extreme right-wing parties fear European integration because they consider that the opening of the borders can be allowed only with let's say alike countries. If we can be considered as members at the same club, let's say, same level of development, quite cultural closeness, and so on. And in this regard, due to let's say the rift between Orthodox and Catholic Protestant Europe, due to the rift of the Cold War, to many other issues, and the different economic development levels, you will find out that there is a clear gap in people's mind in these parties. This would be the simplest explanation, but you will find some articles that will explain that much more in depth than I could.
Hi, I'm Paul de Vries. I had a question about, you told about creating a political union, but can you really create it without popular support or without a referendum? And do you think there would be popular support for a political union?
There's some kind of semantic problem here with the Van Rompuy package. It talks about political union. That's not really a political union in the sense that it would create a federal state with federal institution and so on. There's been some proposition. I mean, we repeatedly proposed the creation in the 90s, creation of the post of the president of the council, for instance. We finally got it in the Lisbon Treaty. There's a few other propositions here, but basically the idea at this stage is not creating a federal state. It's not creating federal institutions. For this, let's be clear, we do not have any popular support, and as far as we can see, it will take some time to get popular support. And I'm not sure that it would be the interest, because the states, I mean the nations, rather than the states, the nations remain the natural expression of cultural differences and also the expression of people's differences. But the political union here means that we have to create a political support for the European policies at the European level. We try to achieve that through the European Parliament. It happens that for several reasons the European Parliament was never able to gain, I wouldn't say that legitimacy, it is legitimate of course, but to gain to create that kind of public opinion and European support. Mainly, in my opinion, because European Parliament is elected through national elections, which is quite a paradox. But here, the goal of the political union is again to try to build the basis for. I wouldn't say for the popular support, because this can't be done from the top. The institution won't build the popular support. I mean, our politicians can, we as citizens can try to help, but basically that comes from the bottom, of course. But the political union here again relates more to the idea of giving a stronger sense of political community and political support at the European level for European decisions. So, which means trying to have a clearer decision-making process, some stronger and more direct popular support and popular influence on the votes. At some point in time, we've heard the proposal this summer, and this is very interesting. It would mean, for instance, electing the European Parliament altogether. I mean, one list at the European level, mixing people, and then you would have the Social Democrat list, the Christian Democrat list, the Liberal list, and all with people from all member states. That would be interesting. That would have some effect. This is the kind of idea that but it's rather vague at this stage, I must say.
But is it realistic? Can it already be done? How long will it take?
I don't know. To tell you the truth, as French, that's probably the point on which we consider that it will take some time. I know the Germans are more optimistic than we are on this, probably because they have a stronger sense of urgency on that. That's mainly due to the pressure of the Karlsruhe court and of the national parliaments and the Bunds, the Länder. Sorry, but anyway, we all recognize that there's a necessity here to build this political support and this political ability at the European level.
Hello, my name is Juillard. It was a French writer who said before the reunification of Germany the famous words, "I love Germany so much, I would like to keep two of them, pointing at the fear of people for a too powerful Germany. And I think within Europe, for the Eurozone to function, it's very important that the power of different countries is balanced. And my question is, what is the view of the French on the power of Germany? Because I know, for instance, in Spain, people feel like Germany is dictating too much. And as a diplomat, what is your view on this?
It was François Mauriac, and you should, we should also remember that France loves so much Germany that with the Westphalian treaties after the 30 Years' War, France helped creating more or less 120 Germanys. So that's an old history there. We need a strong Germany. We need a strong Germany because Germany is the main, at this stage and for quite a while, the most efficient engine for the European economy, the one that will be the most powerful in bringing the European economy forward. And more than this, basically, go back in the 40s. In 49, with the Schuman Declaration and the Monet-Schuman Plan, the basic idea is to bring Germany back in Europe and to make sure that Germany will stay in Europe as a democratic country. And that's always how Germany envisioned its commitment to European integration. So we need a strong Germany, because a weak Germany is more dangerous, is much more dangerous. And of course, if Germany is weakened, you will find if you look at the way the political spectrum evolved in Germany, that's when the economy was the weakest, that the extreme parties were the highest, just as everywhere, as a matter of fact. And that's something we really don't want to see. But that's not the main point. The main point is that it's a balance, as you rightly said. We need that balance. So it's a Franco-German balance, of course, but not only. Not only. And if I may say so, also one thing I didn't mention here about France, the respective roles of France and Germany. Germany is trying to bridge the gap between Eastern and Western Europe. And that's its traditional role in Europe for the last 2,000 years. For us, France, it's trying to bridge the gap between Northern and Southern Europe again. And that's also why we have these bridging roles, that we have these central roles in Europe. And that's very important. But as for the relative strength of our countries, Germany knows, as an exporting country, that its economic health relies on the ability to European partners to buy German products, which means that if recession lasts too long, it will touch Germany, and that begins to be the case. Second, it's also a matter of cycle. 10 or 12 years ago, Germany was considered to be the sick man of Europe, or the ill man of Europe. Today, well, that would be Spain, that would be Italy, some say France. In 5 or 10 years from now, things will be different. The thing is that Germany knows that they can't be the sole leader of Europe. Some people might envision that in Germany. That's pure illusion, and they know it. I mean, the real leaders, the real German leaders know that. They can't play the role of leaders in Europe. That wouldn't be accepted. And besides, it's not a man only that wouldn't be accepted. That's not possible, because itself alone, Germany cannot be in the center. It would be always on one side. And it's only through negotiations and through achieving such balances that you will find the center that will represent the possible consensus. So Germans know they can't have, well, they're certainly proud of their economic well-being these days and how their economy is doing and their power, but they know that their leadership will always be something relative. It has to, such as would be a French leadership, if that would appear in the future, which I hope not. Again, as a diplomat, it's the essence of the European Union is negotiation, agreement, and negotiation, and consensus. It's not domination or leadership.
Good evening. First of all, thank you very much for your talk. My name is Jan Alton, by the way. I have two questions, one referring to short history and one concerning the position we're in now. When it comes to recent history, I believe it was in 2002 or 2003, correct me if I'm wrong, that it was both Germany and France who already transgressed the 3% norm. And it's been said that this set a precedent, and I believe that's correct, it set a dangerous precedent for the situation we're in now. So I would like to ask you, how do you assess the fact that France already transgressed the norm, and how do you assess the claim that this actually contributed significantly to the situation we're in now? My second question is about the plan of the IMF and Ms. Christine Lagarde. She has said on several occasions that she has an alternative plan for Greece. That is to say, whereas I think the European Commission is stressing the importance of austerity, she has said that Greece needs more time and that an agenda of growth needs to be implemented on a much longer time frame. So my question is, how does France assess this plan of Lagarde? What is your position on that alternative? Thank you.
On the first question, the 3% limit, yes, true. France and Germany together transgressed the 3% limit. That was back in 2002, right after the September the 11th. There was this huge economic crisis, and then we felt the need to have some. To fuel our economies. The problem with the 3% limit was that it was too rigid. First, that it was 3%, and second, that it was too rigid. 3%, why 3%? Why not 0? Why not 2? I can tell you the story. It's funny because it's my current ambassador who was in the room when it was negotiated. It was really something that was written down on a little piece of paper at 2 in the morning. That was something fun. So let's say 3%, okay, but it's too rigid. In some cases, you need to have contra-cycle policies. Some would say Keynesian policies, such as the ones we had in 2008. And that's why in the Treaty on Stability and Governance, we said that, well, that 3% limit is stupid. We have to go back to budget balance, 0. But we have to admit that at some time we can allow to have contracyclic policies that will allow to have some amount of deficit to be negotiated with the Commission. So that's why back in 2002 we said, okay, let's forget for some time about that limit, and we came back to 3% in 3 years, 2 or 3 years, no more than this. And then when we came to renegotiate that in 2010 with the six-pack, 2011, sorry, with the six-pack, we said, okay, we have to abide to the golden rule, which is 0% deficit, but to allow some exceptions in time because it's needed due to the economic situation. Regarding Greece, yes, I know that's the discussion between growth and, well, pro-austerity, pro-growth, and so on. Of course, you have to say that you need both. I'm afraid that regarding Greece, the problem is much deeper than that. Problem is that in Greece, it's a much longer-term policy than we need to build the possibility to have a sustainable economy, a productive economy, which is today not the case. Greece has been living on European subsidies. sorry to say that so bluntly. We know that, but Greek competitiveness is a pure view of the mind. Greek is not exporting anything. So basically, what we need to do these days, and that's the troika, the troika idea, is to help Greece rebuild state, rebuild rule of law that would be really respected, and then rebuild the possibility of sustainable economy and sustainable growth. This is the problem.
We have room for 2 more questions.
Play it on poker.
Good evening, my name is Alan. Thank you for your lecture. I was wondering, you mentioned that when, before in your story, that if Britain would leave the EU, it would be terrible, but you didn't give an explanation why. What would be the economic or social implications of such an action of the UK? Thank you.
That's very simple, because you shrink the single unified market, which means you cut it. You have some part of it, and which means that you will recreate a border, also a border for our companies, for our banks, for our insurance companies, and so on. So if UK was to leave the European market, we would certainly negotiate, as we did with Switzerland, for instance, possibility to have to maintain free circulation of goods and trade and so on. But anyway, the psychological impact would be massive. You would have a fiscal impact on the European budget, because of course UK is a contributor. You would have nevertheless an economic impact, because even though you maintain the free circulation, it means that companies will make different long-term forecasts regarding their business inside Europe, and they will consider that in the long term there will be diverging roads between UK and the continental Europe, and that will, well, at least that's a mess. And anyway, you will have a breach in the trust towards European Union and European Union sustainability, and that will be probably the hugest blow to the European Union here. The fact that people might consider that yes, it's possible to get out, and it's possible to, well, and finally also the fact that our British friends are not always easy partners to deal with, but we need them. I mean, they are such an important part in that balance, and they've been so useful and so many times. Well, but on the economic side, well, I'm not an economist here. I'm a diplomat, so I can't be too specific. But what I understand is that it would be about mainly the fact that Great Britain would probably multiply exceptions to the law regarding the European regulation regarding the financial sector, which would introduce some bias in the competition in the financial sector in order to favor to push the positions of the city. And second, because it would mean that companies would have long-term prospects that would mean different positions regarding UK and the EU, and that would be very difficult to handle. In my view, more for UK than for the EU in the long term.
Thank you very much for your interesting lecture. I have a question. You mentioned that the Greek economy is unsustainable and actually uncompetitive. You could say the same about the French economy. It hasn't balanced the budget since the early 70s, and actually a recent report by Louis Gallard said that there was an a big crisis. Now, given this context, and considering that you mentioned economic convergence within Europe is critical, and the European social model you mentioned, you might say that we need to become a little bit more French, a bit more pro-growth, as you mentioned. Maybe the Germans need to consume more. But don't the French also have to become a little bit more Dutch, a little bit more British, a little bit more German, and reform and make some really painful cuts into some of their entitlements and their overblown states? So my question is, do you believe that the French, under a socialist president, under President Hollande, will be able to become a little bit more Northern European? Thank you.
Yes and no. Yes and no, of course. First, regarding the sustainability of the French economy, it certainly can be criticized, of course. Don't forget that we still have a strong industrial basis, a strong technological basis, and so on. We know we're at the low point of the cycle. The point is, how can we get again on the rising side of the cycle? So we know we need some structural reforms. Of course we know. And you know, when there was this interesting debate in the media before the Gallois report on competitiveness. So the Socialist Party, well, he can't do. How will they put that just on the top of the shelf and forget about it, because they can't do anything? The government is going to implement more or less 80% of the Gallois report. We know that we have a competitiveness problem. We know that it's both price competitiveness and relating to the price, to the labor price, and the non-price competitiveness, which means how can we enrich the technological side of our economy and so on. So we have to take several measures. Regarding the reforms, I'd say that the answer of the government, again, I have a neutrality, I must be neutral politically here, but this is my government, so the policy of the government here would be to say, yes, we have to become more Northern European, but maybe not completely in the sense that you consider, rather to try to develop more than we are used to in France, the negotiating processes. France is a nation that's been created by the state, and the state has always played a huge role in the political, social and economic life, and also in organizing the social relations between the companies and the workers. And that's why social democracy was so difficult to, Socialist Party was for a very long time not a Social Democrat Party, because we do not have that habit of negotiating. And what President Hollande is saying here is that yes, we need to make such reforms, but they have to be negotiated and implemented through negotiation between the companies and the workers. This would be the real Northern Europe turn towards social democracy. That would help to have more, let's say, what we call in France a model Rheinische model, or what you call here Polder model in the Netherlands. Here, yes, certainly, that's for sure. That's something we have to learn. That's where we have to learn a lot from all of you, and that's what we try. For instance, two reforms, very important ones. One on the working market, how to make it more flexible, flexi security and so on. There's a very important negotiation ongoing on how to reform this market, the labor market. And the second, it's stupid. We never thought about that. We don't have any representatives of the workers in the administrative in the chairing committees of the companies. How can we make sure that the position of the workers is taken into account, but also that the workers and the workers' representatives can take into account the position and the situation of the company if they're not represented? So that's one reform that's going to be taken these days, and this is a very important one. Just to show you that yes, we know that we have to face some difficult reforms. For instance, about the Gallois report about competitiveness, there's one point about the social social expenditures from the companies. I mean, to finance the social security and social systems is going to be lowered. I mean, the companies will have to pay less for each worker, but this will be financed only through diminishing public expenditures. So, which means that we're ready to make real difficult decisions. The previous government had already begun. It's also true that at some point in time, the most difficult decisions regarding social situations have probably to be made by left-wing or center-left government. That was the case in Germany with the Schröder government and the Hartz-IV agenda. That was the case in UK with the Blair government. I guess that the Violet coalition here in the Netherlands also has quite a record here. So let's see in 2 or 3 years from now.
Now I want an applause for Mr. Juillard. We have a little present for you. It isn't French, but I think you can still enjoy it. And I would like to invite Menno for his announcements.
Just one word. I'd say that for the French embassy, these kind of meetings are very important. It's very important also because it's a very good way to understand better how the Dutch, how you consider our country, and to try to see where we can have a better understanding. And I must say that it's not the first time that I have such meetings. It's always been a real pleasure to see the quality of the audience here. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the lecture. Now we switch to Dutch. Nu de aankondigingen, want we hebben elke week een lezing, maar ook andere activiteiten, zoals het poelen met de actie. Dat komt er aan, kijk, 15 november, zoals jullie kunnen zien. Dus meld je allemaal aan, dat wordt natuurlijk geweldig. Dan gaan we...
You should try French pool.
And next week, because we're volgende week omdat we elke week gaan we het hebben over de morele grenzen in oorlogstijd. Bijvoorbeeld een normale Amerikaanse jongen die in Irak mensen martelt. Hoe komen mensen zover? Hier gaan we het over hebben met Hans-Jaap Melissen, freelance oorlogsjournalist, onder andere in Libië en Syrië geweest. Dus dat wordt zeker heel interessant. Ik zou zeggen, kom allemaal. Die week daarna komt de hoofdredacteur van het NRC Handelsblad praten over de pers in de 21e eeuw. Wat is er nou over van de controlerende macht van de pers? Doen ze dat nog wel of gaan ze alleen maar voor de kijkcijfers of aan de kanten dat verkocht wordt? We hopen hier meer over te horen van Peter van der Meers. En de KBR komt ook aan. Het moment om lid te worden, dat kan 3 keer per jaar. Een van de korte buitenlandse reis. We gaan dit jaar naar Brugge. Meer informatie kan je vinden bij het motorsteentje beneden of op de bol. En Dan gaan we naar een man die nog iets te vieren heeft. Namelijk de winnaar van vorige week. En ook de innerborrel. Kun je ook een biertje pakken en misschien daar nog op proosten of daarom treuren. Dan hoop ik jullie allemaal te zien. Het is in de Duwe Patrice. Dat is trikken links en dan aan je rechterhand. En ik hoop jullie allemaal daar te zien.